This is yet another quick little video about my latest problem with the Handskit 9305D 4-in-1 power supply, soldering station, etc. For a while now I'd noticed that occasionally, very occasionally, I would get a shock off particularly the front panel. If I touched, for example, the surround to the USB or the set screws for the potentiometers here, I would get a little shock. It clearly wasn't a full mains voltage whack, it was something smaller, but it was also very intermittent and I couldn't recreate it in order to be able to diagnose what was going on. And anyway, recently I had a good go at trying to figure out what on earth the problem was, and I think I finally figured it out. It was very clearly probably a capacitive voltage, because I noticed that if you got a whack off it and then touched the same place again, you wouldn't get another whack off it unless you waited for a while and then touched it, and then you'd get another whack off it. So it was clearly something to do with the capacitor, and it was also AC. So I found out, I was thinking that this whole body from the base right through to the front panel was all one piece of metal, and I couldn't figure it out because there's the earth screw, and the earth screw seems to be doing its job. It's connected through to earth, and yet I was getting shocks, which is off here, which isn't really possible for an earth's surface. But then I noticed that that's not correct, that this front panel is a separate piece. It's actually just held on by a couple of screws. Oh, and the screws around the side. And this had become a bit loose. And I think the problem is that this is pretty thickly powder coated, and the heads of the screws are just not making reliable contact with the base and therefore with earth. So what I've done, well, firstly I just tightened the screws up, and that did solve the problem, but in the long term they'll come a tiny bit loose again. So what I did is I unscrewed all this, took the front panel off, and I just ground the powder coat off on the underside under there, and also on the front here, so that there's bare metal between the two surfaces here. And then I put a toothed spring washer in between there and there and tightened the screw so that the spring washer is touching bare metal on both sides. I did the same over here. So hopefully that is now well earthed on the front panel. Certainly I haven't been able to recreate the problem since I did that, so hopefully I've fixed it. Yeah, so yet another little tweak to get this Handskit 9305D into good order. Apart from that, I've actually found it quite a fun and useful thing to have in the workshop, but yeah, it has had its share of little problems.